And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses, live and direct on our YouTube channel, where we're close to 2,000 subscribers. So thanks very much to all of you that have recently subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. Of course, we are coming to you the day after the semi-final defeat to Rangers at Hampden in the Viaplay Cup, or whatever the fuck it's called these days. Calum, heartbreak again at Hampden for the Dons.
Absolutely. I mean, if anyone's playing Red Tinted Glasses bingo, swearing inside the first 30 seconds, there you go, take that one off. Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking. I mean, when Rangers scored, I was just sort of emotionless because I just felt it was going to happen at that point. But all in all, given how I was sort of feeling going into it, wasn't particularly disappointed. And we'll come into dissecting that a little bit later on.
Yeah. I kind of was a little bit emotionless until I realised who it was that scored, and my rage immediately kicked in because, of course, it had to be two former Aberdeen players involved in the goals as well, just to really rub salt into the wounds as well. But to be honest, Callum, we'll probably get into a lot of the nitty gritty for the game, but I think we should probably start the episode by applauding really the 14,000 of us that were at Hampden yesterday, because that support that we took to Hampden yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. Big kudos as well to the ultra section as well, that really was relentless throughout. And I really thought the backing that we gave the team yesterday was terrific. And the players themselves, all we can ask for in games like this is that they leave everything on the pitch. And I really felt we did that yesterday. We left everything on the pitch. Maybe there's an exception in there that we will come on to as well, but it just wasn't to be yesterday in really unfortunate circumstances.
Absolutely, but I sort of left feeling proud in a weird way of the fact that, I kind of half expected us to go there, get humiliated in Glasgow by Rangers, as we've seen so much over the year. Not over the year, over the years, sorry, not just the one. It's been many years of suffering. But also, yeah, the fans as well. I thought they were incredible. We were outnumbered once again, but I think basically what sums it up was at full time, everyone still in fine voice, showing their support for the team, which had left everything both on the pitch and on Fashion Sakala.
Yeah. Well, couldn't hit him hard enough. But on the team, before we kind of go back to the very start, was yesterday a kind of sign that despite the shite that we've sat through over the last 4 or 5 weeks, a sign that we're maybe going in the right direction? This team does have that bit of fight, that bit of character about them to kind of, because we kind of questioned in the preview, does the team have a bit of that mentality to stand up when it's counted? And was there signs there yesterday that give you positivity for the rest of the season going forward, certainly when we turn our attention domestically to Hearts on Wednesday?
Absolutely. I think we could have been turned over. However, I think that's probably what a lot of people would have been expecting fairly comfortably. However, we went toe-to-toe with them, and had it not been for Anthony Stewart's red card, you never know what could have happened, and also I suppose the injuries to Duke and Clarkson. But I remember saying before we went 1-0, we fucking got them here. We've got them here. And we did until things went a little bit wrong later on. But it was certainly encouraging. I think going by social media as well, in general, fans seem a bit more content with the manager too, given how he turned up and played as well. However, I suppose the big thing is it needs to carry on in the league now going forward, because we've seen decent performances for the most part against Rangers at Tawdry, for example. Then again at Hampden, it needs to carry on going to Tynecastle, because if we play like that, I know it'll be difficult given they've just played 120 minutes on an awful heavy pitch. But if they play like that, then they could potentially absolutely stroll it against Hearts. But it's once again turning up away from home and getting it right, and obviously it'll be more difficult when there's not 14,000 of us there and there's only 600. So thanks very much for that, Hearts.
Yeah, we'll come on to the Hearts preview at the end of this episode. But Callum, as always, we look at the team news or the way we lined up as when we start an episode, or certainly start the review of the game. And one of the main talking points going into the game was whether or not Bojan Miovski would kind of get the go ahead over another. And also we discussed in depth on the preview about whether or not Johnny Hayes would get a start over Matty Kennedy. What do we know about Matty Kennedy's performance? Thank you very much to David Ross, who pointed that out to us at full time yesterday. What a performance Matty Kennedy put in. And, well, Bojan's had his critics.
Mm-hmm.
We've been critical of him, me especially, and there's certainly been a lot on social media as well. But that was back to the best of Bojan, certainly in that first half, especially.
Absolutely. I mean, still got some way to go in terms of staying on side for the most part. However, the fact he was involved and making things happen, and even for the goal that was rightly chalked off, what a finish that was! And the fact he was back involved through the middle and making things tick a little bit more was fantastic to see. And the fact he did end up getting a goal too, hopefully will do his confidence wonders on a big stage, I suppose, too, will help. And hopefully that's him back amongst the goal trail. And on Matty Kennedy as well, superb for both at right wing and then when he filled in at right back as well. Still fantastic, despite being absolutely knackered as well from about 70 minutes onwards.
Yeah, not the only one that was knackered from that point onwards, but more on that a little bit later on. But no, you're absolutely right. Great to see. I think Bojan's movement is a lot that's been spoken about, the work he kind of does off the ball. And you know, as Skokser says here, Bojan was pushed up, and he was playing that high line, kind of really trying to annoy Connor Goldson and Leon King, I think was the other centre back yesterday. And he caused them endless amounts of problems in that first half. Unfortunately, like you said, struggled to stay on side at times, but even that first goal as well, just the quality he has to finish from that angle. It was just unfortunate that the flag went up, and I'm actually quite thankful to Ian that he did tell me that it was offside before I went even crazier than I was beginning to go. But Kennedy, I thought was superb in that first half. Really caused Rangers problems, and you know, you've got to applaud that desire to chase down that ball for the opener, because the Rangers defence was sleeping and Matty Kennedy was very much alert. But so was Bojan as well, to have the awareness to go into the middle of the box. And to be fair to Kennedy, I've been quite critical of his balls into the box. I still think some of his set pieces yesterday were a little bit lacking. But that ball for Bojan for the opener is just brilliant.
Absolutely superb. And also, I suppose, on a dodgy park, the fact he got it exactly right for him as well, even better. But put it on a plate for him. Still, Bojan Miovski had to have a nice little deft touch, and he did exactly that. Superb finish, fantastic goal. Brilliant from Matty Kennedy in the first place, not only to be aware of it, but to show that desire for the Rangers fans who were absolutely sleeping, and it prompted fantastic scenes. It's a shame it didn't mean anything, but hopefully the fact, Bojan and Miovski back amongst the goals, confidence should hopefully be flying high after that for him personally anyway. And it'd be nice to see him get back on that goal trail and hopefully put a wee run together starting on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, if he's fit enough, of course, for Wednesday as well. But did you think it was going to be a long afternoon with that opening 10 minutes, which seemed just to be played predominantly in our own half? Of course, Fashion Sakala hitting the post as well inside the opening. I think it was even inside the opening 5 minutes. But I thought, God, this is going to be a long afternoon. But the weird thing about the first half, I don't know if you noticed it, but it seemed to go in 10-minute spells of dominating the game. Rangers opened the game well and dominated the first 10 minutes. We grew into it from the 10 to 20th minute, and then it seemed to swing back the other way. It was very much like a good old-fashioned boxing match, both teams trying to figure each other out and both sides getting opportunities to stay on top.
And we landed first punch, baby. Just kind of on that boxing analogy. But no, first 10 minutes, I was shitting myself. I'll give you that much. I was a bit concerned. I suppose, in context with Rangers having the majority of the crowd in Glasgow, they were always going to start out on top, and it was just up to us sort of weather that initial storm, and which we did, thankfully, just about by the skin of our teeth, I suppose, when Sakala hit the post. But then, yeah, we took a little bit more of a firmer grasp on things, and it had a good sort of cup tie feel to it. I think as a neutral, you're probably watching that thinking this is a brilliant semi-final. I mean, even though we did end up losing, I still enjoyed it at least. So that's something, I suppose. But which I didn't think I'd be saying going into it. But I was very much concerned. But I suppose it was expected. I'm just glad it didn't sort of carry on. So it carried on into that past that 10-minute mark, going towards the 20 mark. I think they would have definitely scored first, and who knows how it would have ended up at that point.
Yeah, and I think, we've been quite critical of our defence in recent weeks. So I think a lot is to be credited to them for that first half display as well, keeping that Rangers side out. And we did say that we would be the team that, or we had the players that could cause that Rangers defence problem. And there was a lot made as well before the game about the pitch and the quality of the pitch, or certainly lack of, and how that might affect the game. And I think it was Matt Cool put on Twitter that the pitch kind of being cut up would probably benefit us more because Rangers being a maybe more passing side could exploit us better. And I think once we grew into the game, that definitely did help us because we saw a lot. We were kind of going route one, balls over the top, trying to get that Rangers backline turning, and we were having a lot of success with that.
Absolutely. It definitely, it was farcical. Before we move on about the pitch, the fact that, the pitch on the National Stadium is like that is horrendous. I mean, I don't know who thought playing two semi-finals one day after the other in January when the weather's been like that was a good idea. But, fair play to the SFA because they always seem to astound us somehow in how fucking shit they are and how stupid. But regardless, here we are.
Not the final they wanted, though.
Exactly, and the sponsor. So, not that we're conspiracy or anything like that.
No.
I'll keep my tinfoil hat away for a wee while. It was awful, but it did sort of suit us in terms of the sort of scrappy nature, I guess, a little bit. I certainly think having Ramadani and Shinnie in the middle of the park also helped us massively. I'd hate to think how that semi-final would have gone had we not signed Graham Shinnie and he wasn't playing there. But I think the one concern is how heavy it was on the legs, especially going to extra time, and especially when we ended up with 10 men.
Yeah, and apologies, I didn't wear my work clothes, so that is the reason why we did ultimately lose the game. And you were waiting to say it as well. But the way the first half went, Calum, do you think as well there was a little bit, hindsight's a wonderful thing, some of the chances we passed up on as well? I haven't brought myself to watch the highlights, but the one that sticks out was Anthony Stewart had a header from a corner. I remember Brune messaged me saying he's got to score that. That one stuck out, and there was another couple of good, maybe half opportunities. Obviously, the Boyan goal that was disallowed. I know there's a few Rangers fans in the comments trying to get their kicks again from tonight. But obviously they themselves had their chances. We've mentioned Sakala's hitting the post, and then Kel Rose again doesn't really have a lot to do in a game against Rangers, but pulls off a terrific save from Morelos to prevent the ball crossing the line.
Absolutely. I mean, the headlines could have been very different had Anthony Stewart scored that. I thought, yeah, Kel was certainly the first half didn't have all that much to do for all Rangers sort of possession and working the ball pretty nicely at times. I thought we protected him pretty well as well. I certainly think having Ramadani and Shinnie in the middle of the park, in front of that back four helped too. But I mean, imagine the headlines of Anthony Stewart after his build up had then gone on and scored and put us 2-0 up. How different things could have been.
Yeah, but you just knew after that comments he was going to be involved somehow, and boy was he. But yeah, it was just one of those things, and I don't know, like at halftime, I was almost in disbelief that we were winning the game. I think because my expectations were so low for the game, but the way it was kind of playing out. And I think, again, this goes back to praising Jim Goodwin. It feels a bit weird after how we've been in recent weeks, but I think we have to, because Jim set that team up so well yesterday. Yes, okay, that opening 10 minutes was a struggle. Maybe the occasion got to a few players. First time for a few of them at the National Stadium, maybe a first semi-final for a few as well. Dealing with that atmosphere and occasion maybe got to them. But once we settled into the game, I thought we looked solid. I thought we looked threatening. And to a man, I thought those players were doing as Jim Goodwin instructed. It just felt that everything was going too well.
Yeah, I at halftime I spoke to someone and they said everyone needs to calm down.
Yeah.
There's a long way to go yet, and I was just like, trying to dismiss it and try and ride the wave. However, he was right in the end. It was we were set up very well. I think credit has to go to Jim Goodwin for that. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough about us at the end of the day, but it's certainly positive and it feels like a step in the right direction, because if we can go and play the second best team in the country like that as National Stadium, when these players have, as you said, barely played in a semi-final probably, certainly not in terms of at a professional level, and also at Hampden. That experience will do them the world of good come April time, shall we say, perhaps. And surely the atmosphere as well provided by the fans must give them a real desire and desperation for more of that, because they saw the reception they got at the end of the game after we'd lost. Imagine if we go on to win something, or if we won that game, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as you mentioned, that full-time reaction from the fans, with the fans still there in full voice, applauding the team off the park as well, applauding the effort that was put in, says a lot about how us fans felt yesterday. I think as well, especially when you compare it to the game at Pataudry and what we were like sitting here discussing that game and the anger that we felt losing. I think it was Martin Stone put on Twitter about yesterday should be the template for us in how we approach games in Glasgow. Or, we do have the capabilities to take the game to Rangers and Celtic. We might not have the defenders yet to still do that, but we certainly have players that have that belief, and yesterday should give us that belief to kick on, not only in future games in Glasgow, future away games, but also for the rest of the season. It's weird to have those positive feelings after losing a semi-final to Rangers.
No, absolutely. I thought I was maybe going to be a bit more gutted today, because I came away from the game thinking mainly, well. I just kept repeating the two words, well, because I thought, like for example, they didn't disgrace us, and I certainly thought, just in general, all round, from the manager to the playing staff, the fans, generally very, very happy. As you say, though, that has to be the template, but not only just for Celtic or Rangers. It needs to start on Wednesday. Go like that, play like that at Tynecastle with whoever's available, and we'll give ourselves a very good chance.
Yeah. What did you make of how we approached the second half? Did you think we were a bit standoffish in that second half, or do you think we continued as we were in the first half?
I think we were a bit more. We were certainly sitting a lot deeper. However, getting out when Rangers were piling on such pressure, pretty difficult. Can kind of understand it. You maybe expected it to go similar to the first half, where if we come out like that for the start of the second half and frustrate them to begin with, then we can take our spell in the game and hopefully go on to capitalize and get the second. They were always going to come out and look to dominate things and get themselves back into the game. The concern was when we did win the ball back, it was mainly just being hoofed up for Miovski to try and chase, and it wouldn't usually even get past the likes of Goldson, for example. That was more the concern for me, rather than not being able to hold on to the ball when we did eventually win it.
Yeah, I think as Mark Robertson says, good to have you with us, Mark, joining over from America. Good to have a couple of you as well that made the trip to Hampden. Paul Reiki, I saw you in the comments earlier. You obviously made it up from London. I don't know if Johnny Main's with us tonight. Of course, travelled over from Cork, but good to have dandies from all over tuning into this episode tonight. He says that we stood off in the second half, and I think that point you make there, Calum, about the way we played in terms of targeting Miovski in the second half really kind of was a bit costly in a sense. That we saw that being the problem previously. Long balls up to Miovski are no use. In that first half, when we were driving through the middle of the pitch using Shinny Ramadani, spreading the play to both Duke and Kennedy, and then having Miovski just run and try and cause the centre-backs problems, that's where we were getting the success. Unfortunately, I don't know if you saw it, but it looked very much like Duke did his hamstring in the first half, because I remember texting Bruno, it was about the half-hour mark, and he pulled up straight away and just grabbed the back of his hamstring. I thought, fucking here we go now. Like, we're already backs against the wall and his hamstring's gone. I was actually more worried for Wednesday night as well, let alone yesterday. So I don't know how fully fit Duke was, but obviously he still soldiered on well into the second half. And I just don't know as well if as more of the second half wore on, tiredness did play a part for us, given the pitch that we were playing on. And we have obviously seen fitness has been a bit of an issue for us.
I mean, obviously it's the same for both sides. I think for a lot of time, there's a lot of young 21, 22, 23-year-old lads in there who playing first team football for the first time ever and then have to go and play on a pitch like that, and they're playing every week. There's little rotation. I don't think that'll have helped. And losing Duke as a sort of ball carrier, for example, if he had played out the rest of that second half, having him as an option to get us up the park rather than just sort of hoofing it and hoping for Miovski could have been very different. Likewise, the creative link with Clarkson, losing him very detrimental too. Someone did message me as well who's watching the game at home at halftime saying that the pitch down Duke's side was cutting up really, really badly. I think you saw that, and it just got worse as the game went on, which won't have helped if he already had sort of any sort of niggles or knocks. And running in such a heavy pitch in the way he does can't have been very, very good.
No, absolutely not. But I suppose Al Mitchell's right. The pitch went for both teams. We can't use it as an excuse. But there was an interesting comment that came in just at the start of our live and kind of relevant to what we're talking about now. And it's from How Do 1% Govern 99, when it says, why can't our team last a full 90 minutes versus Rangers? Dead on our feet well before the 90. Loads of positives, but as soon as the big three come off, we're doomed. And then has his opinion on Connor Barron as well, who obviously did come on later on. But again, is fitness a concern? Because once again, we saw, well, obviously Duke maybe had that injury in the first half, but Leighton Clarkson again failing to last 90 minutes, going off with what appeared to be cramp. Bojan Miovski obviously came off at full time. Again, I'm not sure if that was a knock, but you'd Matty Kennedy struggling. Johnny Hayes, who even came on as a sub, was very much struggling. And again, Hayden Coulson, who's had his injury problems as well. It looked like he was struggling maybe with a bit of cramp as well towards, certainly in extra time. It looked like he was stretching out a good few times. So, and then Keller Rose, who only ever seems to get injuries against Rangers as well. I thought he was starting his time wasting very early when he went down again. But cause for concern again with that side of things, Calum?
I suppose slightly, but I'll go back to the point I just made about it's a lot of young footballers playing their first sort of proper run of first team football right now, basically, and it's 90 minutes every week, sometimes twice a week, with a little rotation then on a pitch like that. And also, the reason it's probably worse for us than it was for Rangers, we spent a lot of the second half in particular without the ball, and it's a lot harder when you're chasing the ball rather than making the ball do the work, which obviously partly our fault. However, I think that also maybe plays into things. But in the likes of Leighton Clarkson, we did play that much against for Blackburn previously, handful of appearances I think for Liverpool. Duke coming in after being sort of a role player, I suppose, at Benfica B as well. So in particular, those two going off, and you mentioned Coulson, who's has injury problems basically throughout his career, it would seem. It's a little bit of a concern, especially going into a big game. against Hearts. So I think it emphasises the fact of maybe needing to get more bodies through the door, and obviously it's particularly in one area of the pitch at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But as Kaiser said, good to have you with us, Kaiser. Shinnie was the best player on the park. Hope we get a permanent deal sorted out. He's only been here for 2 games, but the difference with having him in the team and in the middle of the park is day and night to what we've seen. It's imperative we get him almost on a permanent deal come the summer, but he keeps this level of performance up, he'll have a queue of clubs wanting his signature.
Absolutely. Just hopefully, in terms of for him personally, this seems like the best place for him at this point in his career. So, yeah, I'm sure there will be suitors given his performances, but there's probably a reason he wanted to come back here. I believe he does have a property somewhere nearby. So, Graham, you're reaching your twilight years. It makes sense. Get it done, and if you keep putting in performances like that, if he doesn't stay. Oh, I'll be heartbroken. It'll be like losing Andy Constantine all over again. And Graham
Don't
Shinnie all over again, because it literally will be.
don't fall in love with lone players. Chris makes the point here, and I was going to ask you about this because I know it's a pet peeve of yours. We only used 4 out of a possible 6 substitutions, leaving Bizow Duncan and Patrick Mizailovic on the bench. Strange when fresh legs were needed in extra time. What were your thoughts? Obviously, again, that was another contentious issue we discussed in the preview about making those change, trying not to change it too early when we were doing well, like we saw at Pataudry. Do you think Jim Goodwin made some mistakes in terms of changing the personnel?
I think possibly. We've now seen both ends of the spectrum, really, with changing it too early and now too late. Particularly Marley Watkins being left so late on in extra time. And I think also at that point, when there's 5 minutes to go of extra time, give Vinny a go, give Duncan a go, or Mislovic as well.
Yeah.
In addition to him, because at that point, what have you got to lose? Okay, we might concede another goal, lose 3-1, but you never know what could happen with their energy compared against a tiring Rangers side as well. I think you saw in particular when they went down to 10 men, when Roof was off injured before they managed to make the sub. They were just knocking it around so slowly, such a low tempo, and we just still couldn't get anywhere at them as well. And they looked really done by that point too. I think when Barron came on, I was crying out for Mislovic, and then within about 2 minutes of Barron coming on, I was even more angry. In fact, it wasn't Mislovic, but I do understand, given the fact he's just in the door, I suppose, and it would have been, a tough occasion. But I've seen a lot of calls for Vinny. Still, they're going on in the comments down below from Al Mitchell. It seems unusual. I think perhaps maybe his lack of defensive qualities maybe played into the fact why Barron came on over him.
No, but then I think I think the point on Vinny though was probably he should have come on over Marley Watkins.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that point you just made about the tempo of the game was crying out for someone to have that bit of pace, and kind of really take the game to that tiring defense. I mean, you saw with literally the last kick of the game, you'd Hayden Coulson sprinting onto just a bouncing ball. And, oh my God, if just he connected that little bit sweeter,
Yeah.
it was just, who knows what could have happened, probably skied over the bar. But it was just one of those things that I didn't really understand the Marley Watkins substitution. But also the fact the Rangers had the time to knock the ball about, it reduced how long, because I think Marley Watkins was ready for about the last 10 minutes and only got 5.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there was an opportunity to maybe change it. But yeah, I think that game was crying out for that bit of pace. We saw when we were a bit direct, we were causing Rangers problems. So you do have the question marks around Ryan Duncan and Vinny. I know I've seen a few folks saying maybe it just further exemplifies there was a rift or is a rift between Goodwin and Vinny, that he didn't get on in a game like that. Who knows really? But yeah, the point you made about Barron, once he came on, I was really disappointed. It's really frustrating because obviously there's a lot of talk around Connor Barron and his contract situation just now. And I thought, if ever there's a game that will really kind of give you a chance to kind of stamp your authority on where we are with, show your desire that you want to be here. Albeit he did come very close to scoring in the second half, but I just felt we kind of lost the midfield a little bit once he was on the pitch. We weren't quick to get in the face of Rangers. We were just that yard off it, just even slower to second balls. That's just my opinion. Shared maybe by others, maybe disagreed. Please come forth with your comments. Your opinions are welcome, apart from Jimmy Duff in the comments. But I'm glad to have you. Glad to have you along, funding this YouTube channel, probably funding us more than you funded your club. But thanks nonetheless. Just one of those things though, Calum, where once you lose, certain little things like that become more under the microscope.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I get he's a young laddie, etc., and he's still got some way to go in his development, but I was disappointed with him. I think, we certainly lost a lot with Clarkson going off, certainly the first half. At times I was noticing how high Clarkson was. He was almost playing up there alongside Miovski. It was a shame that Clarkson went off, and I think we just lost a lot with Bannon coming on. As you say, though, admittedly, it did come very close, and it'll be interesting to see who comes in between him and Mislovic if Clarkson isn't fit for Wednesday.
Yeah, and this point from Skokesford really did make me laugh as well, because we went 4 up top and chucked the keeper up in the box in the league game at St Mirren, yet when we had a free kick in injury time or something like that, I can't remember when it was, Roast was just standing behind Kennedy. I didn't understand why he didn't even take the free kick. But I thought, why are we not sending the keeper up when it means something? But we send him up.
Maybe he was too fucked by that point to get up and potentially get back.
Yeah, very, very true. Right, let's get into the contentious decisions of the second half. Jimmy and the rest of his mob, I'm sure, here to really hear our thoughts on these decisions. Let's start with Borna Barisic's assault on Matty Kennedy that Nick Walsh deemed only a yellow card.
Red card? I mean, it seems like this, going by the letter of the law, if you actually read the rules, it basically states exactly red card. It's not about, interpretation of force or whatever. But if you go in high like that with 2 feet, red card. Nowhere near the ball. But, who's shocked?
Not me. But the ABZ guys, they made a good point quoting the video of the assault from Borna Barisic. None of our players do anything about it.
It's ridiculous.
What's that all about?
I know, and you just especially expect Graham Shinney, of all people, to be in there, and probably Ramadani too, but I would have liked to have seen them make a little bit more, but I suppose with, Nick Walsh and his decision making, they didn't want to risk anything else, I suppose.
I just don't. Nick Walsh could not wait to get the booking out. Yeah. I wonder if VAR conveniently went down in communication to refer that to the monitor. But I think it was Ian next to me said, "How is that not a red card?" He called it straight away. The thing about it as well, people are saying Anthony Stewart scissored Sakala or whoever it was.
Yeah,
it was Sakala. I know. I'm just trying to calm down my emotions before I go way too overboard. Barisic does the exact same, but he does it from behind Kennedy. Surely that is much more endangering our opponent than at least Sakala can see Stewart coming. Kennedy has no idea what's about to hit him from behind.
Yeah.
Although I think at the time as well, I was a bit more raging Matty Kennedy didn't play the ball to Johnny Hayes, who was about bursting a gut through the middle of the Rangers' defence. But consistently shite. Scotch referees.
I agree. I mean, to be fair, I don't blame him for not passing to Johnny Hayes. From what we said about Barron, Hayes wasn't much better. Just, making no effort to get down the byline and just putting an early cross into Miovski, who's standing on the edge of the box. But yeah, not
great.
But
I think it was quite apparent Hayes was not fully fit.
Yeah, I know. And I don't think he has been since that injury. And it's probably beginning to signal the end to me for him. But we'll come to that at a later date.
Yeah. Just disappointing, I guess, that kind of only went punished with a yellow card. Right, on to the red card then.
Uh-huh.
Anthony Stewart was in the press, of course, pre-match about his comments on Alfredo Morelos. Proved right. Alfredo Morelos was the easier striker to deal
Mhm.
with, by all accounts, because he was absolutely terrible. Red card, yellow card, Anthony Stewart on Fashion Sakala.
And initially,
Right, okay, initial thoughts when you
okay,
watched it live.
never a red card. However, I was pretty far away. I'll say that much. I
I
was
mean, you are
in the.
wherever you're staying at Hampden, to be honest.
That's true, but I was right in the corner, right up at the back as well, so it
Yeah.
wasn't fantastic. Um, I thought it was. I was like, oh, he's desperate to get that red card out. Red card out. It's not a good tackle. However, there's no chance it's a red card. I thought yellow card. However, having seen it back, he does nail him. He does
Not hard
absolutely
enough.
do him. Not hard enough, according to some. And he maybe has lived some's dream by doing that to a Rangers player. Not myself, of course. I probably right as a red card. However, I'm sure there's going to be worse than that this season that'll go unpunished. I mean, look at the ones up at Ross County, or maybe not up on Ross County. Ross County were playing, and they were even worse, and they didn't go punished. So probably right. Moronic from Anthony Stewart, who was having a good game up until then, but it begs the question of should he be captain when he's going in and doing stuff like that. I don't know whether that will make his confidence and his footballing ability even worse. I don't know if giving it to Shinnie when he's on the loan is a good thing, but if he just stops being a tube like that, that would be good.
Yeah. He doesn't even need to make the challenge. Sakala's going nowhere.
Yeah.
We saw what his delivery was like all game. He would probably end up running the ball out for a goal kick. The game he was having. The time of the game, it was needless to fly in like that as well. To be honest, at the time as well, I thought it was a booking. I didn't think it was as bad as it was when you watch it on TV. I see Al Mitchell in the comments saying red card when watching on TV. I just thought it was just a bit late,
Yeah, that's what I
and
thought.
I thought that's fine. We've seen Barisic pick up a booking. Nick Walsh will just book Stewart as well. But fucking hell, red card was almost like we got it for Christmas, and it was the first time he's using it. He couldn't wait to get out of his pocket. And the thing as well, Anthony Stewart was already down the tunnel before it came over the PA system that they were checking whether or not it was a red card for a serious foul player. That I was like, it's not even any point. Anthony Stewart's probably in the shower before you even decide whether or not that's going to be overturned. And let's be honest, we saw what happened with Kilmarnock's penalty the day before. There was fucking no chance that was getting overturned.
Yeah,
I,
think he knew.
I still felt that if he'd been booked, there would have been obviously an opportunity for VAR to have a look at it for a red card and potentially overturn it. I could maybe have coped with it that way. But as soon as Nick Walsh brandishes the red card, there's absolutely no chance any fan of Scottish football outside of two teams from Glasgow know that as soon as that red card comes out, there is not a chance VAR is overturning it. No way, Jose. But does Stewart need to make that tackle? No. At the time of the game, is it stupid? Yes. Is it even worse because it's our captain? Yes. Is it the second time he stupidly got sent off this season? Yes. Do I agree with the calls around stripping him of his captaincy? No, because I think for a player whose confidence is probably already rock bottom, it will just further destroy it. I know a lot of people are jumping on the Shinnie for captain bandwagon. Again, I can see that point, but giving it to a lone player for 5 months probably is not going to look great, especially if he doesn't sign for us in the summer. But what do? Does Anthony Stewart need a spell on the bench? Well, he's not going to be in the team for a couple of games anyway, because that's going to turn into, I think it's a 3-game ban, and I believe he won't be able to play against Hearts on Wednesday.
I don't think he should be given the armband in the first place. And I think he would be
Mm,
probably thought of a lot better had he not been given it, because you expect more from the captain, and with that pressure, it's probably not helping him at all. I
yeah.
think if he's still a starting centre back come next season, I would absolutely be on board with someone else having it. Because
Mm,
as a defender, I mean, you saw before that challenge, he is capable of just if he just sticks to his task of being a penalty box defender, then he can be good. But at the same time, he's cost us twice in 2 games, which well, certainly that one's massive. And come the end of the season, the other one could be too. It was a bit ludicrous. I don't know whether on one side, without the pressure of the armband, perhaps he goes on and improves. On the other hand, the confidence could go, which is already probably pretty low after that. It was silly. I do agree that I feel sorry with
yeah.
Scott,
Yeah, I
but
agree as
it
well.
was silly.
Yeah, and obviously for those that are tuning into the audio part of this episode, Scott's comment is that he feels sorry for Anthony Stewart. He's been asked to be a player he's not
Mm-hmm.
capable of being. We're trying to build a team who can pass out from the back. Stewart is a no-nonsense defender, and I totally agree with that aspect as well, because you saw yesterday when Stewart was asked to be that no-nonsense defender, you made that point at the beginning. He was having a very good game. It was just one moment of absolute madness. And unfortunately, that
Yeah.
consistency with what Borna does versus what Anthony Stewart does, it just doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it, and it's just hugely frustrating. Even more frustrating that despite having VAR in Scottish football, you can get away with assaulting a player on a pitch, because Ryan Kent, once Rangers have the one-man advantage, decides to punch Liam Scales in the face. And unbelievably, Nick Walsh gives a free kick and nothing else. So he sees that there has been an altercation off the ball. And I remember he consults, because he speaks to his linesman,
Mm-hmm.
conveniently placed in front of the Rangers fans, probably shitting himself to make the decision that is a red card. Where the fuck is VAR though?
Mm-hmm.
Is that when it was broken? Apparently not, because we only were told it was broken from extra time onwards. If it's not working, then fucking hell. Like, I'm not saying it would make a huge difference, but um, I was a big fan of a comment that I saw on Twitter today, where Ryan Kent should have been sent off for wearing short sleeves and gloves, let alone the assault on Liam Scales.
I mean, for all what Anthony Stewart did was stupid, and ultimately Ryan Kent wasn't punished. If you're a Rangers fan, and okay, yeah, whatever, it's funny, he's punched a player on loan from Celtic. You must be. How stupid is he? I mean, he's clearly a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
Somehow, the people in charge of officiating the match, even more of a fucking idiot. I mean, I don't know how he's got away with it. Not even checked. I don't think. It's just absolute lunacy, sort of from all involved, really, wasn't it?
just beggars belief. Really sums up the state of Scottish football and the talking points. We've seen VAR being in the news for all the wrong reasons every day this weekend. You saw the decision that Hearts got away with on Friday night with a penalty that should have been. Kilmarnock as well, not getting a penalty that should have been. And then Aberdeen somehow not benefiting from a red card in a game against Rangers. Who surprised? Not me. Of course, they
Nope.
want that showpiece final, but I hope they're all happy. We'll let Glasgow enjoy that occasion. I'm sure the police won't, but there we go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, Calum, extra time just kind of caught up with us a little bit. The legginess, and maybe the 10 men also a factor in the
Mm-hmm.
winning goal as well. To be honest, for me, a really disappointing goal to lose. Um, and watching Scott Wright's smug face run behind the goal was fucking insufferable. And then fake hardman Ryan Jack trying to give it to the south stand as well, who are about 50 meters away. Honestly, it does my fucking head in, that boy.
I agree. I was pretty emotionless at that point when it scored, sort of expecting it. However, I mean, I think that goal summed up basically how knackered Matty Kennedy was. He'd given it his all, and also the fact that Matty Kennedy's clearly, he's not a right back. He's clearly out on his feet, and still Jaden Richardson didn't even get sent to warm up. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think that tells you all you need to know. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't pleasant. It had to be right in front of us. But I hope he's happy. When all's said and done, and he retires, not going to be able to come back here and have a fantastic time.
No, certainly not welcoming soul anyway. Did you see his Instagram story that he posted?
Oh, I know. He really seems.
Bitter.
He seems weirdly bitter for someone who's, fair, okay, for whatever, he's gone there, he's won trophies, sold his soul to the devil. But he seems really bitter about it, and it's confusing. Surely, I don't know. I just dislike the man.
Very much. Al Mitchell makes a point about Christian Ramirez in extra time. Ramirez did nothing. I suppose didn't really have much to work with. I don't really think we had much of the ball in the second half. Was doing his best, I guess, had a small opportunity, but difficult for Christian Ramirez. Maybe also his mind turning elsewhere, of course, with the news kind of coming out before the game this weekend that Christian Ramirez potentially set to return to the MLS with Columbus Crew on a 3-year deal, with the club set to receive a modest transfer fee, if you believe the rumours going on Twitter and the sources that post on there. Do you think that was maybe in his mind a little bit, that he was playing his last game for Aberdeen, although maybe with the state of our squad going into the game on Wednesday night, we might need him still?
I know, he might have to hang around for a little bit at this point. I don't know if that'll be playing on his mind, to be honest. I'm sure he would have loved to go out with a bang, the last dance, if you will. And to be honest, at that point, the service was not fantastic to Miovski prior to him going off, and it didn't really improve. However, having said that, I would have loved to have seen it if that shot that Ramirez took on his left, if that had gone in, oh my word, that would have been the most audacious attempt in the world, and it would have been bloody brilliant if he is going to leave, which certainly looks like it's going to be the case, which is quite sad given the way it's sort of all unfolded.
Yeah, obviously I put the tweet out from the Twitter page, so if you don't follow us on Twitter, give us a follow at RTG_podcast. Basically kind of summarizing my thoughts kind of on the situation, that despite whatever you feel on the Ramirez situation, nobody's kind of come out of this looking good. Ramirez hasn't covered himself in glory with the way he acted at the back end of last season, but neither's Jim Goodwin and the football club as well. Maybe, through reluctance of not playing him this season. He was a striker that, by all accounts, carried the team last season with some of his goals. A player who I thought genuinely liked being here, moved his family across the pond, and that can't have been easy. I know obviously that was well documented as well last season with some of the comments from Val Bar when they moved back to America at the end of last season. But a player for 6 to 8 months who gave his all for Aberdeen, and unfortunately things just haven't worked out. I think it is sad the way it's worked out. I also just hope it doesn't come back to bite us, him leaving before the end of the season. But I think the opportunity, obviously, to free up a bit of wage, and if we're getting money for him at the same time, too difficult for the club to turn down. But needs replaced, I guess, in this window.
Absolutely needs replaced. For him, going back to America, his contract's due to expire anyway. I think it's probably the best thing for him, his family. For us, would be fantastic to get a little bit of money, I suppose. Reportedly on a big wage, but that has to be reinvested. We will probably need another backup striker at this point, and someone who can provide competition, fantastic. Maybe offer something a little bit different, because there was quite a few similarities, I suppose, between Ramirez and Miovski. Maybe something who offers something different to both them and Duke too. Almost in the form of Tobias Lauritsen, you would have thought maybe, but Who knows? Good luck to him. You know, it's been a blast. We'll always have give it.
Yeah. And like I said in the tweets as well, that memories of that Dundee United game when he scored from that Ramsey cross and the night out after in Scotia, and I know Chubbs responded with some of the nights out in Prohibition after the European games were some of the best nights, but just that feeling of seeing our team back and the kind of start that Stephen Glass had, thinking, well, as you said, that we were going to win the lot, and obviously how horribly that turned out. But yeah, there was a lot of feel good about the team, and he played a part in that. So like, I wish him all the best for the future. And who knows, we might even try and get him on the podcast in the future as well if he wants to speak about all things Aberdeen.
That's a good shout.
Yeah. Stephen McPhee Music puts a comment. What's our thoughts on Vinny now that we're at a back four? Does he deserve a run of games, or has Kennedy's resurgence stamped that chance out? It's an interesting one because even despite, Kennedy's resurgence, it's Johnny Hayes who he's turning to over Vinny Bizaouin, and again, it was obviously well documented. Vinny didn't get his chance off the bench yesterday. What do you think is going on with Vinny? Do you think he will get much chance between now and the end of the season?
I think possibly not. Hope absolutely, because he's still young, and we have seen sort of flashes of him being very, very good at times, albeit mainly in the Viaplay group stage or whatever the fuck it's called. I'd like to see him get a chance, and certainly if Duke doesn't play at, or at least doesn't start at Tynecastle, I'd much prefer Bizaouin to come in. I think off the left, although probably not of the caliber of Duke at the moment, offers similar sort of style of play, good ball carrier, right-footed coming off the left, coming inside, leaving space for Coulson or whoever. However, I feel like it probably will be Johnny Hayes, but he doesn't look at his best either right now. I think Matty Kennedy, in terms of his performances right now, it seems to be, as you've mentioned before, he's either like the best player on the park or anonymous. And I think more often than not, we have seen him be a pretty good, perhaps sometimes at times our biggest threat. Certainly, think back to the game away against Livingston in the second half. He was our only threat, really. But I would still like to see Vinny get that chance, and not another player coming over from abroad going wrong, because so far the track record is not fantastic. It seems to be getting a bit better with Radani, Duke and Miovski, but look at Hernandez, Ramirez going back, and Bizaouin's on the list as well.
Yeah, well, let's certainly hope that Mislovic works out better than certainly falls into the category of Duke, Miovski and Ramadani. But Matty Kennedy's certainly a player that Jim Goodwin obviously fancies. He was a player that he tried to sign when he was St Mirren manager, so clearly sticking to what he knows or what he prefers. But I think it's difficult when you've got players that are eager to go and prove themselves as well. They'll want to be getting as many minutes as possible, and obviously that falls into Vinny as well. Obviously, as well, in the news this week as well, there was discussions around Hayden Coulson, where Jim Goodwin came out and said that the ball is in Middlesbrough's court around Hayden, out of contract at the end of the season, but we'll wait to see if Middlesbrough offer him a new contract first before making our move, which I don't really understand. I don't see why we wouldn't.
It might play into things in terms of a development fee. I don't know if that will make any difference because he's come through there and then they would lose him on a free. I don't know.
I'm not sure if that applied. I don't know if that applies in England. I thought it was only applied in Scotland, but I could be wrong. But Jamie's comment here is that he hopes we buy Coulson. I was quite impressed with him yesterday. A lot of people, pick up on maybe some of his defensive qualities lacking. But did you see that last-ditch tackle he made?
Oh,
what a fucking tackle that was. Because if he gets that wrong, there was definitely no arguing on that one being a red card. I think, there are times when people say, and I think there was a couple of occasions yesterday where he did try a bit too hard with a bit of skills and knocked the ball out of play accidentally. If he just keeps things simple, he's a very effective left back, and hopefully he can just get a good run of football and avoid some of these niggly injuries that he picks up as well. And to be honest, I kind of agree with Mark Robertson. I hope we don't buy him, because I just hope we pick him up on a free instead, as Mark says. I think that works best for both camps. Coulson get regular football here, and we don't have to spend a penny.
Yeah, I agree. Thought it was fantastic, and that challenge that you're talking about was brilliant. And when he went to ground, I thought, oh god, this is going to be bad, because obviously didn't have a particularly great view. But if he can stay fit and keep putting in performances like that, and maybe keep things a little bit more simple, or at least know when to try his fancy tricks and when not to, then could be on to a winner.
Yeah. Right, back to league action then. On Wednesday night, so possibly a chance of 2 lives for you this week on the Red Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. It's been a very busy live tonight, with loads of you tuning in and plenty of you getting involved in the comment, which is great to see the interactions and comments that have been coming in. Calum, what do you think then, as we take, I think it's going to be fair to say, a depleted squad to Tynecastle? Energy sapped, certainly, after playing extra time as well. Of course, Hearts playing on the Friday night, getting a little bit extra rest as well. Paul Donaldson, good to have you along with us tonight. For the Hearts game, will we see Jaden Richardson come in at right back, with Ross McCrory going to centre defence? Of course, with Anthony Stewart, as I suspect, being suspended for Wednesday. We saw Ross McCrory play in that position. We didn't see Jaden Richardson, of course, as you said, warm up yesterday. Can he remarkably make a reappearance into the first team and fill in at right back, and potentially just give Matty Kennedy a little bit of a break? Again, given the fact that he himself looked like he was struggling towards the end of the game yesterday.
Yeah, I can imagine Jane Richardson will come in. McCrory absolutely will be at centre back. I mean, it would be unusual if we go with McCrory at centre back and then Matty Kennedy also at right back. I think that would sort of mess things up a little bit too much in terms of our defensive stability. It'll be an interesting one. I'm pretty nervous going into the game against Hearts. They've been pretty good. They seem to have recruited quite well. But if we do play the same way, which will be hard, as we did against Rangers at Hampden, we've got a very, very good chance in a venue which has not been favourable to us as of late.
No, a venue that has not been favourable to us, and a venue that we're only having 600 away fans in, because apparently Hearts fans are the second coming of Glory Hunters and piling out of the woodworks now that they've had one season where they finished third, and probably just trying to see Premiership football before they get relegated in a few years' time. But like Al Mitchell, I'm really excited to see how we line up on Wednesday. Do you think we kind of stick with the formation that we saw at the start of the game on Sunday, or do you think Jim Goodwin goes a bit more defensive, tries to, not saying as defensive as that Celtic game, but just maybe try and manage expectation given what we went through on Sunday? Because, of course, defeat on Wednesday would see us drop to 9 points behind Hearts in that race for third place. So, would a point be accepted?
Right now, no. I think come full time, if we do walk away with a point, I'll probably be relatively happy. Especially since they'll have to come back here, and there'll be chances that they don't drop points as well as us, which is a bit of a concern. I think it's a 6-pointer, though. Is it too early to call it that? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think so.
I'd say it's a 6-pointer. I think we do need to take the game to them in a similar fashion we did at Hampden, against Rangers. I think we absolutely have to. I think
like it was Ibrox.
Yeah, with Shinnie and Ramadani in the midfield, though, I think that does provide good cover for us to play this the sort of way we did it at Hampden. So I'd like to see us take the game to them. And at times they've been, defensively suspect as well. Obviously, they brought in Jimmy Hill from Bournemouth on loan, who apparently played very well against St Mirren. So maybe they're bolstered in that sense. But they've still been a little bit suspect at times. So I'd like to see us give them a real go, and hopefully Duke will be fit to provide that.
Yeah, but I suppose they've been a bit suspect, but they've been very strong at home, of course, this season as well. And I think the point Al Mitchell makes is that it's a chance for some of the players who don't play every week to shine. And I think this is the point that Jim Goodwin made after the Sterling game, where he said he wanted quality to come off the bench. And I really like this point because it is the perfect opportunity. There are players that are clearly frustrated, and I think Vicente Bizawan falls into this category, frustrated at their lack of game time that they've been getting this season. Ryan Duncan's obviously keen to play more minutes as well, I'm sure. So potentially opportunities for these lads to go and put a statement out to the manager and say, look, I'm wanting to play more and I deserve to play more. Give me that chance. If you give me that chance, I'll show you what I'm capable of. And it'll be really interesting to see how we kind of approach this game in that sense as well. And I suppose I should say it now because I'll definitely be guilty of this. Should we, as Aberdeen fans, not be overcritical or overreactive if we were to lose the game on Wednesday, given the effort put in yesterday and potential difference in terms of starting lineup with kind of some of the injuries that we've seen?
I think that's important, given we've seen what we are capable of. However, even if we do lose, for me, more about how we approach things and how we apply
Mm,
ourselves. Uh, like the game on Sunday, for example. And obviously things will be made far more difficult, as you say, through fatigue, tired legs, and things like that. But I think Hearts are there to be got at, and if we don't try and do that, then there's going to be many a question raised.
yeah. And I suppose interesting to see who starts at centre back. Kaiser saying Jack McKenzie could be in at centre half if he's not injured. Of course, Jack McKenzie wasn't even in the matchday squad for yesterday's game against Rangers. And Scott saying, I wonder if Mislovic will get a start, and that will be interesting. Not played much football recently, of course, with the Slovakian league having their winter break, but
Mm-hmm.
surely still has some fitness about him. Again, even if it's an opportunity, even if he has an hour in him and it's an opportunity to rest one of these guys that were struggling, a Leighton Clarkson, for example, if Patrick could play an hour and you give Leighton half an hour, that's better than nothing, is it?
Yeah, I think so. And you mentioned players with point to prove. Mitrovic has got a potential permanent deal here to play for
True.
as well.
Yeah. Um, is it a case of if we were to lose on Wednesday that third place is almost out of reach, or would it be out of reach for you if we lose on Wednesday, or is it still too early?
Um,
Obviously, the fact that we'd probably, obviously, making top six would still have to play Hearts twice.
I think realistically, I wouldn't see Hearts throwing it away from that stage. I'd still obviously be hopeful, and anytime they drop points, I'd be delighted about the prospect of us getting back to third. But realistically, I wouldn't see us clawing that back, especially if we don't make any more additions this window.
Yeah, which brings us on to the comment from Ryan Does Base. It's starting to get worrying that it's now over halfway through the window and we haven't signed any defenders yet, when realistically we need two if, God forbid, we can't keep Scales. And of course, as I said to you before we went live, as we got into injury time, about a minute before Anthony Stewart decided to get himself sent off, Macaulay stood behind me, turned around and said, who would we play at centre back if we got to the final? And I remember when Stewart turned around, I said, now who the fuck do we play at centre back if we get to a final? Obviously, Stewart out for the game on Wednesday, but if he is suspended for more than one game and Liam Scales was to pick up an injury, how quickly can Jack Milne make it home from Kelty Hearts?
Uh,
Or Evan Towler from Elgin, of course, both going on loan to those respective clubs. It kind of does highlight the importance to get a centre back in
or
and
two.
quickly. Or who? Or
Oh,
two.
one or two, yeah. I think so. Especially, well, you mentioned Liam Scales, who thought actually played very well at Hampden.
Mhm.
Also, likewise, Ross McCrory, if he picks up anything, especially in the way he puts himself about every game, and certainly did for 120 minutes, we would be in big trouble. And I mentioned perhaps 2 centre backs, maybe certain Charles Dunn and Bevis Mugabe.
Of course, yeah. What was your thoughts on seeing Charles Dunn kitted out in an Aberdeen top supporting his friend in Anthony Stewart?
I mean, seems like he's a good friend if he's going to support him all the time. However, if I was a Mirren fan and I see him wearing an Aberdeen top, livid, absolutely livid. It was weird. It was pretty weird.
Could you imagine Aberdeen Twitter if that was the other way around?
I know. It's weird. It's really weird. I mean, it's nice of him and all. It's bizarre, though. Going
Yeah.
wearing at the top of another team. I believe apparently a match worn top from Anthony Stewart, given it had this, cinch badging and whatever. But still odd. And it seems, given the fact he was at Tawdry earlier in the season, that he is, as the kids say, twerking for us. And likewise, Bevis McGanby going there. I know he's probably friends with Charles Dunn from their time at Motherwell, but I can't imagine he's friends with anyone at Aberdeen. So the fact he was there, also pretty weird. I'd probably be more inclined to take him than Charles Dunn. However, at this stage, any centre backs, as long as they're fit, they'll do for me.
Yeah, well, maybe friend of the show Jack Grimmer fancies a move up north instead of continuing Wickham's promotion push.
Contract up at the end of the season, by the way, and he would count as homegrown for our attack on the Europa League group stages. So there you go.
Fills your quote of local lads, they know what it means as well.
Exactly.
Mark Robertson, no, it is not confirmed that Anthony Stewart is out, but with the League Cup and the red card for serious foul play, I believe it does carry into the next immediate game. So that's why I believe Anthony Stewart is suspended, but no, not confirmed. And Skokesker saying as well, Milne won't be back. He's not a defender. I think, Calum, you made the point that there was a comment on social media that Jack Milne's actually playing in midfield for Kelty Hearts tonight, not as centre-back. So good to see that loan spell starting off on the right foot.
So free Chidi and McCallie. He seems to get mentioned quite a lot. She actually, I suppose, an honest account, you never know. Mentioned that he played box-to-box midfielder, which is really helping with our hopes of developing him to become a centre back. So at least he's playing, I suppose. That's at least something.
And on other players carrying knocks going into this game, Kyle Rose reportedly having a thigh problem. I've seen someone put in the comments earlier. Would you be tempted to change the goalkeeper going into this game?
If he's carrying a knock, then absolutely, because we can't be done with all the faffing about again. However,
you've got Darvel coming up on Monday, so would you be tempted to play Kella on Wednesday and then swap it out for Joe come Darvel?
I think so. That would probably seem more reasonable. However, if there is any doubt over Kelroso on Wednesday, just swap it, because Joe Lewis, very, very decent backup goalkeeper.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how many of these players are risked going into the game, but maybe kind of just showing a little bit how threadbare we are currently, and some of our squad depth isn't quite maybe where we want it to be at this stage. Obviously, January a difficult window to really strengthen that depth, but I suppose goes to the point that we are still that work in progress, and kind of performances like we saw on Sunday, albeit not the right result, there are signs that we are going in the right direction.
I think so. I feel a lot more positive than I thought I would be, and it's not wearing off yet. I'm sure probably come Wednesday at about 6 o'clock, I'll probably be starting to cack me kecks again. But I do think it was a step in the right direction. Going to Hampden, a semi-final against Rangers. To be honest, didn't expect us to at the start of the season win anything so far this season. Put on a good showing. Got another chance in the Scottish Cup, obviously starting on a week today, I suppose. I think we are starting to move in the right direction. I think it's still vital we do add a couple more players for that depth, certainly at the back in this window. But hopefully we can carry on with that template we used at Hampden in terms of going away, or even when the likes of Hearts come up to Tawdry too. And come the end of the season, European football, maybe another semi-final at least, then probably going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, I think the kind of point you make about carrying on what we did in terms of level of performance from Sunday is really important because it is kind of a big 10 days coming up for us. 2 trips to the capital and a trip to deepest, darkest Ayrshire to face Darvel in a potentially tricky Scottish Cup tie. Of course, tickets, if you are watching this live with us on Monday night, tickets going on sale for that game tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. The club statement really selling the tickets themselves, saying that it's a sloped embankment, and if you're not at the front, you're not going to have a great view. And there's of course going to be a TV gantry as well behind the goal, so the view might be even further restricted. So roll up and get your tickets for a chance to tick off another ground, but you might not see much of the action.
Absolutely, and I mean, God forbid it rains a lot between now and then as well, because that sloped embankment will not be perfect underfooting conditions.
Not even rains. I mean, obviously, not everybody that is tuning in tonight is in Aberdeen. I'm north of Aberdeen, and I think it's -1 tonight. So obviously, we're still in January. We could be sitting with a frozen pitch. So fair play to all of you choosing to travel down to that game as well. Obviously, again, we 4 away games on the bounce. Not the best time of year for money and with everything else that's going on. So I think a lot of credit to those traveling to all these games. Big, as I said, big 10 days coming up for the club. Important that we continue this upwards trajectory of sorts. Feels weird saying that on the back of a defeat. But hopefully, Calum, when we reconvene, as I said, we're doing this live on Monday night. Probably do another live on Thursday night or maybe lunchtime, depending on our circumstances. We'll see how that works out. We're talking about more positives, but more importantly, points.
Absolutely.
And then with the game in the Scottish Cup being live on TV on Monday, we might even jump on and do a wee halftime analysis live like I did previously for some of the games that have been live on TV, because these videos tonight has shown us that there is a lot of appetite for the lives, lots of interactions as well. So if you have enjoyed the video tonight, please do leave us a like. Lots of you have commented with your thoughts as well. And if you haven't subscribed as well, hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 1,200 subscribers as well. We do really appreciate all the support here on YouTube. And of course, if you've been tuning in on audio on catch up when this episode is released, then until next time, thanks very much for tuning in. And Calum, come on you Reds.
Hey, you did it. I wasn't going to, but you did it.